Zara Thompson had been a trauma nurse at Chicago Memorial for 3 years, and she'd seen everything: gunshot wounds, stabbings, overdoses. But when they rushed in the Korean man with multiple bullet wounds and failing vitals, something was different. His eyes locked on hers as she fought to save his life. And she saw something terrifying: recognition, fascination, obsession. She saved Kang Min-ho that night. She had no idea she'd just become the most dangerous man in Chicago's only weakness. The night everything changed started like any other chaotic Friday night in the emergency room at Chicago Memorial Hospital on the city's south side. Zara Thompson stood at the nurse's station, filling out patient charts on the computer. Her dark braids pulled back in a tight professional bun, her navy blue scrubs rumpled and stained from a 12-hour shift that was supposed to have ended 2 hours ago, but kept extending because the ER was absolutely slammed. Her feet ached in her comfortable nursing shoes. Her back hurt from bending over patients all day. She had a headache forming behind her eyes from staring at computer screens and fluorescent lights for too long. All she wanted was to finish these last 3 charts, clock out, go home to her small apartment in Pilsen, take a hot shower, eat something that wasn't from the vending machine, and sleep for 10 hours straight. The ER around her was its usual controlled chaos. Bay 3 had a construction worker with a broken arm from falling off scaffolding. Bay 5 had a middle-aged woman having what looked like a panic attack, but might be a heart problem. Bay 7 had a teenager with a possible concussion from a skateboarding accident. Bay 9 had an elderly man with pneumonia. Standard Friday night urban trauma mixed with routine medical emergencies. Zara had been working as a trauma nurse at Chicago Memorial for 3 years now. Ever since finishing her nursing degree at the University of Illinois, she'd seen everything the city could throw at an ER: gunshot wounds, stabbings, overdoses, car accidents, domestic violence injuries, industrial accidents. Chicago was a violent city, and the South Side was one of the most violent parts. Working trauma nursing here meant seeing humanity at its worst and occasionally at its best. She'd held the hands of dying gang members who cried for their mothers. She'd talked suicidal jumpers down from emotional ledges while treating their physical injuries. She'd delivered babies in the ER when mothers couldn't make it to the maternity ward. She'd pronounced dead teenagers who'd been shot over nothing. She'd saved lives and lost lives and learned to keep her emotions locked down tight so she could function. Tonight felt like every other Friday night, until it suddenly wasn't. "Zara, incoming GSW." Dr. Patricia Martinez shouted from across the ER, her voice cutting through the ambient noise. "Multiple gunshots, male, critical condition, ETA 90 seconds. Need you in Trauma 1 now. GSW. Gunshot wound." Zara's adrenaline spiked immediately, the way it always did when those words echoed through the ER. She abandoned the charts instantly, her exhaustion forgotten as her training kicked in. She ran toward Trauma Bay 1, pulling on fresh sterile gloves as she moved, grabbing a protective gown from the supply cart. GSWs were unfortunately common enough in Chicago, but multiple gunshots on a Friday night usually meant gang violence, which meant complications. Gang members didn't come to hospitals alone. They brought friends, enemies, and drama. They brought weapons and attitudes, and sometimes they brought ongoing conflicts right into the ER. Security would have to be notified. Police would be called. It could get messy fast. The automatic doors burst open with their familiar whoosh of air. The ambulance had arrived. Paramedics rushed in, pushing a gurney at almost running speed, their faces grim with the expression Zara had learned to recognize. This patient was critical, possibly dying. Every second counted. Male, approximately mid-30s. Asian, 4 gunshot wounds, 2 to the chest, 1 to the left abdomen, 1 to the upper right thigh near the femoral artery. The lead paramedic rattled off in the practiced rapid-fire delivery of someone used to conveying crucial information fast. Massive blood loss, BP dropping steadily, pulse thready and irregular. Started 2 IV lines in the ambulance, pushed fluids, but he's circling the drain fast. Found him in an alley in Chinatown about 15 minutes ago. Anonymous 911 call. No witnesses at the scene willing to talk to us. This looks like professional work. All the shots are center mass, execution style. They transferred the patient from the ambulance gurney to the hospital trauma bed with practice deficiency. A coordinated lift on the count of 3. Zara moved into position immediately on the patient's left side, her training taking over completely. She'd done this hundreds of times. Assess, stabilize, treat. Follow the protocol. Save the life in front of you. But when she looked down at the patient's face for the first time, something made her pause for just a fraction of a second. Just a heartbeat, just long enough to notice. He was Korean, she registered immediately. Probably in his mid-30s, as the paramedic had said. Handsome despite the deathly pallor of massive blood loss and the twisted grimace of pain. Strong, angular features. High cheekbones. Strong jaw. Dark hair matted with sweat and blood. He was dressed in expensive clothes now completely soaked with blood. What looked like a custom-tailored suit, designer shoes, a watch on his wrist that even covered in blood she could tell was extremely expensive. Wealth and power radiated from him, even as he was dying. And his eyes. God, his eyes. They were open. Most patients in his condition would be unconscious from blood loss and shock, but this man's eyes were open and alert and locked directly, intensely, unwaveringly on her face, with a focus that made her skin prickle with awareness. Dark eyes, almost black, piercing despite the pain he must be in. He was staring at her like he was memorizing every detail of her face, like she was the only thing anchoring him to consciousness and life, like she was the most important thing in the world in this moment. "Zara, I need you focused," Dr. Martinez barked, snapping her back to reality. "Start another IV line, push O-negative blood, and get me a pressure reading." Zara shook off the strange, unsettling feeling and dove into the work with complete focus. Dr. Martinez was already cutting away the man's blood-soaked shirt with trauma shears, revealing the gunshot wounds. Zara started a 3rd IV line in his right arm. His veins were already collapsing from blood loss, making it difficult. But she got it on the 2nd try. Another nurse, Maria Garcia, was on the other side managing the breathing tube they'd need to insert. A 3rd nurse, James Kim, was setting up the rapid blood transfusion equipment. "He's lost at least 3 to 4 liters of blood," Dr. Martinez said grimly as she examined the wounds with quick, efficient movements. "These look like 9mm rounds. The chest wounds, one collapsed lung and the other one nicked the subclavian artery. That's our immediate problem. The abdominal wound looks like it might have hit the liver. Thigh wound missed the femoral artery by maybe half an inch. Pure luck. We need to get him to surgery immediately or he will not survive the next 10 minutes. BP is 70/40 and dropping fast," Zara reported, watching the monitor with growing concern. Heart rate 145 and climbing, respirations shallow and rapid. The man's eyes never left her face. Even as the team worked on him with urgent efficiency, even as he should have been unconscious from the blood loss and shock and pain, he was watching her with that unnervingly intense focus. His lips moved like he was trying to say something around the oxygen mask, but no sound came out. "Zara, I need direct pressure on the chest wound while I assess the abdominal injury," Dr. Martinez ordered. "James, get that transfusion going now. Maria, prepare for intubation." Zara pressed both her gloved hands firmly against the gunshot wound on his upper left chest, just below the collarbone where the subclavian artery was damaged and bleeding. Blood seeped warm and thick through her gloves despite the pressure. The man's entire body tensed, his breath hitching sharply in pain at the pressure on the wound. His right hand suddenly shot up with surprising speed and strength for someone who was dying. His hand wrapped around her wrist, his grip strong and almost desperate. Their eyes met directly, and Zara felt a jolt of something she couldn't name go through her. He was trying to speak, trying to tell her something. His dark eyes were intense, desperate, pleading, like whatever he was trying to communicate was the most important thing in the world. "It's okay," Zara said automatically in her calmest, most professional voice, the voice she used with frightened and dying patients. "You're going to be okay. We've got you. You're safe here. Just hang on for us. Stay with me. Keep your eyes on me and stay with me." His grip on her wrist tightened for just a moment, his fingers pressing against her pulse point like he was trying to anchor himself to her heartbeat. Then his hand fell away limply as consciousness finally left him. "He's crashing," Maria called out sharply from the monitors. "BP 60/35, pulse 165 and irregular. We're losing him." "Get him to OR now," Dr. Martinez shouted. "We don't have time for anything else. Call up to surgery and tell them we're coming. Go, go, go." They released the brake on the trauma bed and ran, pushing the bed at maximum speed toward the elevators that would take them up to the surgical floor. Zara kept pressure on the chest wound as they moved, running alongside the bed. The patient was completely unconscious now, his face gray with blood loss, his breathing barely perceptible even with the oxygen mask. The surgical team was already waiting when they burst through the operating room doors, gowned and gloved and ready. They transferred the patient to the operating table with another coordinated lift. Dr. Sarah Chen, the trauma surgeon on call, was already assessing the wounds. 4 GSWs, massive blood loss, subclavian artery damage. This is going to be a long night. How much blood has he gotten? 4 units so far, another 4 on the way, Dr. Martinez reported. He's barely holding on. Then let's get started before we lose him completely. Thank you for the save, ER team. We'll take it from here. As Zara turned to leave the OR, she caught one more glimpse of the patient's face. Even unconscious, even dying, there was something about him. Something powerful, something dangerous, something that made her think this was not an ordinary man, and this was not an ordinary shooting. Walking back to the ER with the rest of the trauma team, Maria spoke up. "That was some professional hit job. Did you see those wounds? Tight grouping, center mass. Whoever shot him knew exactly what they were doing." "The clothes were expensive too," James added. "That suit was custom tailored, easily $5,000. And that watch? That was a Patek Philippe Nautilus. Those retail for like $150,000 minimum." "Drug dealer probably," Dr. Martinez said wearily. "Or gang leader. We get them through here sometimes. The expensive ones with the professional hits. They live violent lives and die violent deaths. It's sad, but it's reality." "Or Korean Mafia," Maria suggested quietly. "We've had a few of them come through over the years. They have that look, you know, dangerous. Like even dying, they could kill you if they chose to. That guy had that look, especially the way he was staring at Zara." Zara felt a chill run down her spine at Maria's words. She had noticed the intensity of his stare, the way he'd looked at her like she was the only thing keeping him tethered to life, the way he'd grabbed her wrist with such desperate strength. "Let's just hope he makes it through surgery," Dr. Martinez said. "Sarah Chen is the best trauma surgeon in the city. If anyone can save him, she can. Now let's get back to work. We still have a full ER to manage." The rest of Zara's shift passed in the usual blur of activity and patient care. She finally clocked out at 4:30 in the morning, 14 and a half hours after she'd started. She was exhausted beyond words as she headed out to the employee parking lot, got into her aging Honda Civic that needed new brakes she couldn't quite afford yet, and drove the 20 minutes home to her small studio apartment in Pilsen. She should have forgotten about the mysterious gunshot victim. She'd treated hundreds of trauma patients over 3 years. Most of them became just faces in a blur of wounds and treatments. She couldn't remember them all individually. It was healthier that way. Maintaining professional emotional distance was crucial for survival in trauma nursing. But she couldn't stop thinking about him. About those intense dark eyes locked on her face. About the way he'd grabbed her wrist like she was his lifeline. About the desperate need to communicate something that she'd seen in his expression. About the expensive clothes and the professional hit and the sense of danger and power that had radiated from him even as he was dying. She shook it off as exhaustion and the adrenaline crash that always came after treating critical patients. She fell into bed still in her scrubs, too tired to shower, and immediately fell into deep sleep. 3 days passed. Zara worked 2 more 12-hour shifts, treated dozens of patients, helped save 3 lives, and lost 1. It was Tuesday afternoon when she was at the nurse's station, catching up on charting when Dr. Martinez approached her. "Zara, you remember that GSW from Friday night? The Korean guy with the 4 gunshots?" Zara looked up immediately. "Of course. Did he make it?" Patients died sometimes. It was an unfortunate reality of trauma medicine. But she found herself hoping intensely that this particular patient had survived. "He made it, barely. Surgery was 9 hours. Dr. Chen said it was touch and go multiple times, but they managed to repair the arterial damage, remove all 4 bullets, repair the liver laceration, and reinflate the collapsed lung. He's in the ICU recovering. And here's the interesting part. He's been asking for you specifically." Zara blinked in surprise. "Asking for me? By name? How does he even know my name?" Dr. Martinez shrugged. "I have no idea. But he apparently told the ICU nurses he needs to speak with the trauma nurse who saved his life in the ER. Specifically, he said, the black nurse with the braids who told me I would be okay. That's you. Only one who fits that description on Friday night's team. That's unusual." "Yeah, well, patients sometimes fixate on their trauma teams. PTSD, gratitude, whatever psychological mechanism helps them process almost dying. Anyway, I thought you'd want to know. He's in ICU room 427 if you want to stop by during your break. Completely up to you, it's not required or anything. But he did ask specifically." Zara absolutely should not have gone to see him. She had no medical reason to visit a patient outside her department. She had plenty of work to do in the ER. She should have just been glad he'd survived and moved on with her day. But curiosity was a powerful force, and something about those intense eyes locked on hers kept pulling at her thoughts. During her afternoon break, Zara took the elevator up to the 4th floor ICU. She walked down the quiet hallway to room 427. She stood outside the door for a long moment, debating with herself about whether this was a good idea. Then she knocked softly and pushed open the door. The man from the ER was awake, propped up in the hospital bed at a 45-degree angle, connected to multiple monitors and IV lines. He looked substantially better than he had 3 days ago. Color had returned to his face. His eyes were alert and focused. He was very much alive instead of actively dying. The expensive suit was gone, replaced with a standard hospital gown. But even in the hospital gown, he still radiated that same sense of power and danger she'd felt in the ER. When he saw her standing in the doorway, his entire face changed. His dark eyes lit up with recognition and something else. Something intense and warm and deeply relieved that made Zara instinctively take a small step back. "You came?" he said in English with a noticeable Korean accent. His voice was deep and rough, probably from the intubation and breathing tube during surgery. "I was not certain you would. Thank you." "Dr. Martinez said you were asking for me," Zara said, staying near the door, keeping her distance. Her nursing instincts told her to be professional and cautious. "I wanted to check on you and see how your recovery was going. Because of you, I am recovering at all. You saved my life. He gestured weakly to the chair beside his bed, with his hand that wasn't connected to an IV line. Please sit. Stay for a moment. I promise I do not bite. A faint hint of humor touched his lips. At least not right now when I'm full of surgical staples and pain medication. I only have a few minutes. I'm on my break from the ER. Then I will use those minutes wisely and not waste them. His dark eyes watched her intently as she reluctantly sat down in the visitor's chair. What is your name? I need to know the name of the woman who saved my life. Zara. Zara Thompson. Zara, he repeated slowly, like he was memorizing the sound and shape of it, like he was testing how it felt in his mouth. Beautiful name for a beautiful woman who does beautiful work saving lives. I am Kang Min-ho. It's nice to meet you properly, Mr. Kang. I'm glad you survived the surgery. Dr. Chen said it was very close. She told me I should have died multiple times during the surgery, that I am lucky to be alive. But I do not think it was luck. His eyes stayed fixed on her face, with that same unsettling intensity from the ER. I think you refusing to let me die in that emergency room gave me the strength to survive. I was just doing my job. The whole team worked on you, Dr. Martinez, Maria, James, the paramedics, the surgical team. It wasn't just me. But you were the one I saw, Min-ho said quietly, and something in his tone made her shiver slightly. When I thought I was dying, when I was certain my life was ending, you were the face I saw above me, the voice I heard telling me I would be okay, the hands I felt working to save me. Do you have any idea what that means to a man who is absolutely certain he is about to die? I'm very glad we were able to save you, Mr. Kang, Zara said professionally, standing up from the chair. Something about the intensity of his gaze made her uncomfortable in a way she couldn't quite articulate. I hope your recovery continues smoothly. The nurses up here are excellent. You're in very good hands. Wait, please. His voice was commanding despite his weakened state, the voice of someone used to being obeyed. Before you go, I need to know something important. Are you safe? Zara paused at the door, confused. Safe? What do you mean? The men who shot me. They are very dangerous people. Ruthless. If they think you saw something important that night, if they think you might have information about who I am or what I do, they might come after you to prevent you from talking to the police. I need to know that you are protected and safe. I don't know who you are, Zara said carefully, her heart rate picking up as she began to understand the implications of what he was saying. I'm just a nurse. I treat everyone who comes through those ER doors, no questions asked. That's hospital policy. That's how emergency medicine works. I didn't see who shot you. I don't know anything about your situation. But you are intelligent, observant. You must have guessed what I am, what I do for my living. The expensive clothes, the professional shooting, the fact that I told the nurses not to call the police when I woke up. Zara met his intense gaze directly. I don't know anything about you, Mr. Kang, and I don't want to know. I saved your life because that's my job, my oath, my calling. I save every patient who comes through those doors regardless of who they are or what they've done. That's where my involvement with you begins and ends. She turned to leave. It does not end, Min-ho said quietly, but with absolute certainty and conviction that made her stop. I will make certain you are protected, whether you want my protection or not. I protect what is important to me. And you, Zara Thompson, have become very important to me in ways I do not yet fully understand, but already know to be true. Zara left without responding, her heart pounding hard. There was something about the way he said it, not as a threat, but as a statement of absolute fact, as a promise, as an inevitability. She tried to put the encounter out of her mind and focus on her work. She had patients to treat, charts to complete, medications to administer. She couldn't spend her shift thinking about mysterious Korean men with gunshot wounds and unsettling declarations. But over the next several days, she started noticing things that made her increasingly uneasy. A black Mercedes sedan parked across the street from the hospital that seemed to be there every time she arrived for her shift and every time she left. Different car each day, but always there, always occupied by men in dark suits who watched the hospital entrance. A man in expensive business attire, sitting in the hospital cafeteria during her lunch break, not eating, just sitting and reading a newspaper. But she caught him watching her multiple times. When she made direct eye contact, he looked away immediately. Another man standing near the entrance to her apartment building one evening when she came home from a late shift, smoking a cigarette, who nodded politely at her as she passed. She'd never seen him before in her building. On the fourth day after visiting Minho's hospital room, an elaborate flower arrangement arrived at the nurse's station. Expensive orchids and roses in a beautiful crystal vase that must have cost several $100s at minimum. The card attached was simple and unsigned. "Thank you for my life. You will always be important to me. M.H." "Oh, someone has a secret admirer," Maria teased when she saw the flowers. "These are gorgeous, Zara, and expensive. Who's M.H.?" "Nobody important," Zara said, reading the card with growing unease before crumpling it and throwing it in the trash. Just a patient being overly grateful. But she felt eyes watching her from across the cafeteria as she said it. Exactly 1 week after the shooting, Zara was leaving the hospital after her evening shift when a man in an expensive tailored suit approached her in the parking lot. He was Korean, probably in his late 40s, with graying hair and an aura of professionalism and quiet menace. "Miss Thompson?" he said politely in accented English, his hands folded in front of him in a non-threatening posture. "My name is Park Jae-sung. I work for Mr. Kang Min-ho. He would very much like to speak with you at your convenience." "I don't have anything to say to Mr. Kang," Zara said firmly, walking past him toward her car in the far corner of the lot. "I'm glad he's recovering, but our interaction is over." "Mr. Kang is being discharged from the hospital tomorrow," Jae-sung continued, following her at a respectful distance, not threatening but persistent. "He would like to express his gratitude to you properly before he leaves. Perhaps dinner at a nice restaurant. He will compensate you generously for your time and the inconvenience." "I'm not interested in dinner or compensation or any kind of meeting with Mr. Kang," Zara said, reaching her car and unlocking it. "Please tell him I'm glad he survived and I wish him well in his recovery. But that's where our interaction ends. I'm just a nurse who did her job. Nothing more." "Miss Thompson, I must tell you honestly that Mr. Kang is not a man who accepts rejection gracefully. He is persistent when he wants something, and he very much wants to see you again. Then he needs to learn how to deal with disappointment," Zara said firmly, getting into her car. "I'm not interested. Please leave me alone." She drove away, but watching in her rearview mirror, she saw Jae-sung standing in the parking lot speaking on his phone, his eyes following her car until she turned out of the lot. That night, Zara came home to find a large gift box sitting outside her apartment door. Expensive wrapping paper, elaborate silk bow, no delivery label or return address. She knew she should leave it there, should throw it away unopened, should call building security and report it. But curiosity got the better of her. She brought it inside and opened it carefully. Inside was a Chanel handbag, the kind that cost several $1,000s at minimum. Black leather, classic design, absolutely beautiful. And tucked inside the handbag was a handwritten note on expensive stationery. "Zara, Please accept this small token of my deep gratitude for saving my life. I know it is inadequate to express the debt I owe you, but I hope you will accept it in the spirit it is offered. I would very much like the opportunity to thank you properly in person. To get to know the remarkable woman who refused to let me die. To understand how someone can possess such skill, such grace, such strength. If you will grant me just one evening of your time, I will be forever grateful. Yours in deepest gratitude, Minho. Zara stared at the note for a long moment. Then she carefully placed the handbag back in the box, took the entire thing downstairs, and deposited it in the building's dumpster. She didn't want his gifts. She didn't want his gratitude. She didn't want his attention. She wanted to be left alone to do her job and live her normal, quiet life. But Kang Min-ho, she was rapidly discovering, did not understand or accept the concept of being left alone. The next day, when she checked her student loan account online during her break, she discovered something shocking that made her heart stop. All her student loans, over $87,000 in debt from her nursing degree, had been completely paid off. The payment had been processed the previous day. The payer was listed as an anonymous benefactor through a corporate entity. She knew immediately who had done it. She was furious, absolutely livid. She marched up to the 4th floor ICU, only to discover that Min-ho had been discharged that morning, as Jae-sung had mentioned. Miss Thompson? She whirled around to find Jae-sung standing in the hallway behind her, as if he'd been waiting for her to come looking. "What the hell is this?" she demanded, pulling out her phone and shoving the loan payoff email in his face. "I didn't ask for this. I don't want this. How dare he pay off my loans without my permission? That's controlling. That's invasive. That's completely inappropriate. I want it reversed immediately." "I am afraid that is not possible," Jae-sung said calmly, seeming completely unbothered by her anger. "The payment has been processed and accepted by the loan servicer. The debt is officially cleared from your record. There is no mechanism to reverse it, even if Mr. Kang wanted to, which he most certainly does not." "This is insane. You can't just pay off someone's debt without asking them." "Mr. Kang can and did. He wanted to properly thank you for saving his life. Student loan debt seemed like a significant burden that he could easily eliminate for you. By doing it without asking? Without my consent? That's not gratitude. That's control. That's manipulation. I want nothing to do with him or his money." "Mr. Kang anticipated you might feel this way," Jae-sung said, reaching into his suit jacket and pulling out an envelope. "He asked me to give you this letter if you came looking for him." Zara snatched the envelope from his hand, tore it open, and read the handwritten letter inside. "Dearest Zara, I know you must be angry with me right now. I know you did not ask for my help with your financial obligations. But please understand, I am a man who pays his debts, and I owe you the greatest debt one person can owe another. You gave me my life back. In my world, that creates an obligation that can never truly be repaid, but I must at least try. I also know that you are curious about me despite your anger. You are too intelligent and observant not to have figured out that I am not a simple businessman. You are correct in your assessment. I am not a good man, Zara. I operate in darkness and violence. You are right to want distance from me, but I cannot give you that distance. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. I have tried this past week to forget about you, to convince myself that my interest in you is merely gratitude for saving my life. But it is not gratitude. It is something far more powerful and consuming. You have become an obsession to me in ways I do not fully understand myself. From the moment I opened my eyes in that emergency room and saw your face above me, telling me I would be okay, working so hard to save my life. From that moment, something in me knew you were important, essential, mine. I do not expect you to return my interest. I do not expect anything from you except to allow me to keep you safe. Because my world is dangerous, and my enemies are ruthless, and they may try to use you against me now that they know you saved my life. This is not a negotiation. This is a fact. Whether you want my protection or not, you have it. Whether you want my help or not, you have it. Whether you want to see me again or not, I will be watching over you. If you truly want nothing to do with me personally, I will respect that wish and keep my physical distance. But my protection and my care for your well-being will remain. My people will watch over you to ensure you stay safe. And if you ever need anything, anything at all, you need only call and I will provide it. You saved my life, Zara. Now I have decided that your safety and happiness are my responsibility. For as long as I live, yours always, Minho P.S. My personal number is written at the bottom of this letter. Call me anytime, day or night, for any reason. Zara crumpled the letter in her fist, her hands shaking with anger and something else she couldn't quite name. Fear, maybe. Or the unsettling realization that her life had just become very complicated. This is insane, she said to Jae-sung, who was watching her with professional calm. He can't just decide I'm his responsibility. He can't just appoint himself my protector. He can't just pay off my debts and have people follow me around. This is stalking. This is harassment. I could call the police. You could, Jae-sung agreed. But I would advise against it. The police in this city have very little power over men like Mr. Kang, and involving them would only draw more dangerous attention to you. Mr. Kang's enemies would love to know that he cares about a certain trauma nurse enough to have her watched and protected. So I'm trapped? In this situation he's created? You are protected, in a dangerous world that you do not fully understand. Mr. Kang's rivals are violent, ruthless men who would not hesitate to hurt you if they discovered how important you are to him. The only thing keeping you safe is Mr. Kang's protection, being stronger than their surveillance. This is a nightmare. Perhaps. But it is your new reality. I suggest you accept it and allow Mr. Kang to keep you safe. Fighting against it will only make things more difficult for everyone. Jae-sung bowed slightly and walked away, leaving Zara standing in the ICU hallway holding a crumpled letter and trying to process how her entire life had just been turned upside down. Over the next few weeks, Zara tried desperately to return to normal life. She worked her shifts at the hospital, came home to her apartment, studied for her nurse practitioner certification exam that she was planning to take in 6 months. She tried to ignore the black cars that were always parked near the hospital or her building. She tried to pretend she didn't notice the well-dressed men who seemed to materialize whenever she walked anywhere alone. She tried to forget about Kang Min-ho and his dark, intense eyes and his declared obsession, but he didn't make it easy to forget him. More gifts appeared regularly, always expensive, always elegant, always accompanied by handwritten notes. Designer clothes that were exactly her size, he'd clearly researched her measurements somehow. Books she'd casually mentioned wanting to read to a coworker, he was apparently monitoring her conversations somehow. Jewelry, art prints, gourmet food deliveries. She donated everything she could to charity or threw things away. But they kept appearing. Her rent was mysteriously paid 6 months in advance. When she tried to get the payment reversed, her landlord said the money had come from a legitimate real estate management corporation and was non-refundable per their contract. A new car appeared in her assigned parking spot one morning. A safe, reliable Toyota sedan with excellent safety ratings to replace her aging Honda Civic. The note attached said simply, "Your old car was not safe enough. This one has been fully paid for and insured. Please accept it. MH." It was infuriating, invasive, controlling. He was taking over her life piece by piece without asking permission. And despite her anger and frustration, a small traitorous part of her was touched. No. She refused to be touched by this stalker behavior. She refused to be flattered that a dangerous criminal had decided she was important to him. But she couldn't deny that there was something compelling about his attention. Something that made her pulse race when she read his notes. Something that made her wonder what kind of man inspired such intense loyalty in his people. 6 weeks after the shooting, Zara was walking home from the bus stop late one Tuesday night after a double shift left her too exhausted to wait for a better bus. Her new car, Min Ho's car that he'd forced on her, was in the shop for a routine service that his people had arranged without asking her. She'd taken the bus instead. It was past midnight. The streets were mostly empty. She was 2 blocks from her apartment, building, just wanting to get home and sleep. She sensed someone following her before she saw them. Not the usual distant watchers that Min Ho had assigned to protect her. Someone closer, someone threatening, multiple someones. She walked faster, her heart rate picking up, her hand moving toward her phone in her pocket. The footsteps behind her matched her increased pace. Getting closer. "Hey, beautiful," a rough voice called out in English. "Where are you going so fast? It's not safe for a pretty girl like you to be walking alone at night." Zara didn't turn around. 1 more block to her building. If she could just... A rough hand grabbed her arm hard, spinning her around. 2 men blocked her path. They looked desperate, strung out, the hollow-eyed look of serious drug addicts looking for money for their next fix. Not Min Ho's well-dressed professional guards. These were street criminals, opportunistic and dangerous in a different way. "Give us your purse right now," one of them demanded, pulling out a knife with a shaking hand. "And your phone, and your jewelry, everything valuable. Do it now, and we won't hurt you." Zara's mind raced. Her phone was in her pocket. Min Ho's direct number was programmed in it. She'd saved it despite telling herself she'd never call. Should she try to call? Try to scream? Try to run? She opened her mouth to scream for help. 2 sharp gunshots cracked through the night air, impossibly loud in the quiet residential street. Both men dropped to the ground immediately, screaming and clutching their legs where bullets had struck them in non-lethal but extremely painful locations. Zara whirled around in shock to see 3 of Min Ho's guards emerging from the shadows like ghosts, their weapons drawn and pointed at the wounded would-be muggers. She recognized one of them from the hospital parking lot encounters. "Are you hurt, Miss Thompson?" The lead guard asked in accented English, already speaking rapidly in Korean to his companions who were zip-tying the wounded men's hands behind their backs. No, I'm not hurt," Zara managed, her voice shaking from adrenaline. "They didn't touch me. You got here before. We should have prevented them from getting this close," the guard said, genuine regret in his voice. "Mr. Kang will be extremely displeased with our performance tonight. It will not happen again. We will escort you home now." Within 2 minutes, the wounded men had been dragged into a black van that appeared from nowhere. Someone was already cleaning the blood from the sidewalk with professional efficiency. Within 5 minutes, it was like the attack had never happened. No trace remained. The guards walked Zara to her building, checked her entire apartment thoroughly for any threats, and didn't leave until she was safely inside with the door locked and the security system armed. Her hands were shaking as she sat on her couch, trying to process what had just happened. Those men could have killed her, would have hurt her at minimum, would have robbed her definitely. And Min Ho's guards had been there, watching, protecting her just like he'd promised. They'd saved her life, just like she'd saved his. The next morning, Zara found Jae-sung waiting outside her building with expensive coffee and pastries from her favorite bakery. Another detail about her life that Min Ho had apparently researched. "Mr. Kang wanted me to check on you personally after last night's incident," Jae-sung said, handing her the coffee. "He is extremely concerned about your well-being and very angry that his security team allowed those criminals to get so close to you before intervening." "How does he already know about it?" Zara asked, though she already knew the answer. "It happened less than 8 hours ago. He knows everything that happens to you, Miss Thompson. His men report to him constantly about your safety and activities. He was informed within minutes of the incident. He has been awake all night, making certain no further threats exist." "This is insane," Zara said, but with less conviction than before. "Normal people don't have armed guards following them. Normal people don't have dangerous criminals watching their every move. You stopped being a normal person the moment you saved Mr. Kang's life," Jae-sung said simply. "May I come inside? There is something Mr. Kang would like me to discuss with you. It is important." Against her better judgment, Zara let him into her apartment. They sat in her small living room, and Jae-sung's expression was unusually serious. "Last night's incident with those street criminals was random," Jae-sung began. "Wrong place, wrong time, opportunistic crime. But Mr. Kang has many enemies in this city. Rival organizations who would not hesitate to hurt or kill you if they discovered how important you are to him. Your safety requires more than just distant surveillance. It requires you understanding the situation you are in and taking it seriously." "I didn't ask to be in any situation," Zara protested weakly. "No," Jae-sung agreed. "But you saved the life of a very dangerous and very powerful man, and that man has decided you matter to him more than anything else in his world. That puts you in a situation whether you chose it or not. Mr. Kang would like to meet with you to discuss your safety properly, to explain the real threats that exist, to ensure you understand why his protection is necessary." Zara thought about the men with the knife, about how quickly Minho's guards had appeared and dealt with the threat, about how those guards were probably still watching her building right at this moment. "One meeting," she finally said. "I'll meet with him once to discuss this situation. But that doesn't mean I'm agreeing to anything beyond listening. Of course, tomorrow evening, he will send a car for you at 7. I'll drive myself. Just tell me where to meet him." Jae-sung gave her an address in River North, one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Chicago. The next evening, Zara drove to the address in the car Minho had given her. It felt strange to be driving his gift to meet him, like she was accepting his control over her life. But her old car was truly unreliable, and this one was undeniably safer and more comfortable. The address was a luxury high-rise building with a doorman in an expensive uniform who was clearly expecting her. "Miss Thompson, welcome. Please take the private elevator directly to the penthouse," he said, gesturing to a separate elevator that required a key card to access. The elevator opened directly into a massive penthouse apartment that took up the entire top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows on all sides offered stunning views of the Chicago skyline and Lake Michigan. Expensive modern furniture, original art on the walls, pieces she recognized from museums. A kitchen with appliances that probably cost more than she made in a year. And Kang Minho standing by the windows overlooking the lake, dressed casually in dark jeans and a black sweater, but still radiating danger and intensity. He turned when he heard the elevator doors. For a moment, they just looked at each other across the expanse of the penthouse. He looked healthy now, fully recovered from his gunshot wounds, handsome in a way that made her breath catch despite her determination to stay angry at him. "Zara," he said, and the way he spoke her name sent an involuntary shiver down her spine. "Thank you for coming. I know you did not want to. I appreciate that you are giving me this chance to speak with you. Let's be clear, I'm here to understand what situation you've dragged me into, not because I want to see you," Zara said firmly, staying near the elevator. Your assistant said you have enemies who might target me. I want to know exactly what I'm dealing with. Direct and practical. I appreciate that very much. He gestured to the comfortable seating area near the windows. Please, sit, eat. Would you like something to drink? Wine, water, coffee? No. I want answers. Who are you really? What do you do? And why have you decided I'm important enough to completely take over my life? Minho sat in the chair across from the couch, his dark eyes studying her face with that intense focus she remembered from the ER. I am the head of a Korean organized crime organization operating primarily in Chicago, but with connections throughout the Midwest. We control drug trafficking, weapons sales, money laundering, illegal gambling, and various other criminal enterprises. I am, as you have probably guessed, a very dangerous man who has done many terrible things. At least he was being honest. Brutally honest. And you're telling me this because? Because you deserve to know the complete truth about what you have become entangled in through no fault of your own except compassion and professional skill. My rivals, primarily Russian and Mexican criminal organizations, shot me 2 months ago as part of an ongoing territorial dispute. They intended to kill me and take over my operations. They very nearly succeeded, and then you saved my life. So you decided to make me your project? Your obsession? How does that make any sense? It does not make logical sense, Minho agreed, his expression serious. But I have thought about you every single day since that night in the emergency room. When I was dying, when I was certain my life was ending, I looked up and saw you. You were calm, competent, strong, determined. You fought for my life like it mattered, like I was worth saving despite having no idea who I was. Do you have any idea how rare that is for a man like me? I fight for every patient's life. It's literally my job, my oath as a medical professional. Perhaps, but you saw me as a human being worth saving, not as a criminal or a monster. That night, lying on that trauma table believing I was dying, I decided that if I somehow survived, I would find out who you were. And when I found you, I discovered you were even more remarkable than I remembered from the ER. Intelligent, compassionate, dedicated to helping others, beautiful inside and out. You became an obsession to me in ways I still don't fully understand. That's not healthy. That's not normal. You can't just decide someone belongs to you because they did their job. I know, Minho said simply. I know it is not rational or healthy or appropriate. But it is true nonetheless. I have built my entire life on control and power in getting what I want. I decide what I want, and I take it. And I have decided I want you in my life. Well, I don't want you in mine, Zara said firmly, but she could hear her own conviction wavering. I'm not some prize to be collected or some possession to be owned. I'm a person with my own life and my own choices. I know that as well, which is why I am not forcing you into anything you don't want. I am simply protecting you, helping you, being present in your life, whether you acknowledge my presence or not. That's still not okay. You paid off my student loans without asking. You bought me a car. You have armed men following me everywhere. That's stalking and harassment and probably multiple crimes. It is protection and care from a dangerous world you do not fully comprehend, Minho countered. My enemies are actively looking for ways to hurt me, to damage my organization, to take what is mine. If they discover that you are important to me, and they are already suspicious after seeing how carefully you are protected, they will absolutely target you. They will kidnap you and torture you for information, or kill you to hurt me emotionally, or use you as leverage to force me to give them what they want. The only way to keep you safe is to watch you constantly, protect you constantly, and ensure no one can harm you. So I'm in danger specifically because you decided I'm important to you? because you couldn't just let me live my life in peace? Do you understand how that's entirely your fault? Yes, Minho said bluntly, his expression showing genuine regret. I see it completely clearly. I am the direct reason you are in danger now. I am the reason your life has been disrupted and changed. Which is precisely why I consider it my absolute responsibility to protect you from those dangers I have created. It is my fault you are vulnerable, therefore it is my duty to keep you safe. I didn't ask for your responsibility or your protection or your obsession. No, but you have all three regardless of whether you asked for them. Minho leaned forward, his intense dark eyes locked on hers. Zara, I understand completely that you are angry. I understand you want nothing to do with me or my world. But I need you to understand the reality of your situation. My rivals already know about you. They have been watching you almost as carefully as my own men have. The only reason you are still safe and unharmed is because my protection is better and more comprehensive than their surveillance. You cannot simply walk away from this situation. It is already too late for that simple solution. Zara felt cold dread wash through her stomach. You're saying I'm trapped in your world, in this situation, because I saved your life. I am saying you are protected in my world because you saved my life, and I have decided you matter to me more than anything else. There is a significant difference between trapped and protected. It doesn't feel like a difference from where I'm sitting. I know. But I am asking you, begging you, to trust me, to let me keep you safe, to accept that this is your new reality for now, at least until the current territorial conflicts are resolved and my rivals no longer see you as a valuable target. And how long will that take? Months. Possibly 6 months to a year depending on how negotiations proceed and whether more violence is necessary. So for months, possibly a year, I have to live knowing I'm only safe because you've declared me yours? Knowing that armed guards are following me everywhere? Knowing I can't make plans or go anywhere without considering security implications? Yes, I understand how difficult and restrictive that must feel. But the alternative, leaving you unprotected, would result in your death within weeks. I cannot and will not allow that to happen. What do you want from me? Zara asked quietly, exhausted from fighting against something that felt inevitable. Really? What's your actual end goal here? Minho was silent for a long moment, his expression more vulnerable than she'd seen before. I want you to let me into your life properly. To accept my protection not as a burden, but as care. To perhaps, eventually, not hate me for putting you in this situation. And maybe, if I am very fortunate, to one day return even a fraction of the intense interest and feeling I have developed for you. You want me to fall for you. I want you to give me a chance. To see me as more than just a dangerous criminal and an obsessive stalker. To understand that beneath the violence and power and control, I am simply a man who has never in his life felt about anyone the way I feel about you. A man who would burn down his entire empire before letting anyone hurt you. That's completely insane. Yes, but it is also completely true. Zara stood up, needing to pace, needing to move, needing to process everything. I need time to think about all of this, to understand what I'm dealing with, to figure out how to live with this new reality. Of course, take all the time you need. My protection is not conditional on your acceptance of it or acceptance of me. You will be kept safe regardless of your feelings about me. And what if I never accept it? What if I always hate you for dragging me into this dangerous world? Minho smiled sadly. Then I will spend however long necessary protecting someone who hates me. It will not change my commitment to keeping You safe. It will not change how I feel about you. Zara walked back to the elevator, but she paused before pressing the button. Can I ask you something? Anything? That night in the ER, when you grabbed my wrist? What were you trying to tell me? Minho stood and crossed to her, stopping a few feet away. I was trying to tell you that I saw you, really saw you. That in that moment when I thought I was dying, you became the most important thing in my existence. I was trying to say thank you, and please don't let me die. And you are beautiful, and I will remember you forever, all at the same time. But I could not speak, so I just held on to you and hoped you understood somehow. I told you that you would be okay, and you were right, because you made it true. You refused to let me die. I would have done the same for anyone, perhaps, but you did it for me, and that changed everything. Zara left without responding, her mind spinning. She drove home in the car he'd given her, walked into the apartment where he'd paid her rent, and tried to figure out how her life had become so completely unrecognizable in just 2 months. Over the following weeks, Zara tried to adapt to her new reality. She couldn't fight it, couldn't change it, so she had to learn to live with it. She went to work knowing that Minho's guards were always watching. She came home knowing that her building was under constant surveillance. She made plans knowing that security implications had to be considered. It was suffocating and frustrating and exhausting. But she also had to admit, reluctantly, that she felt safer than she ever had before. No one bothered her. No one harassed her on the street. No one made her feel unsafe, because everyone could see that she was protected by someone powerful, and no one wanted to cross that line. Minho kept his promise about not pressuring her. He didn't try to force meetings or demand her time, but his presence was always there in the background. Flowers appeared weekly at the nurse's station, notes with book quotes she'd enjoy, small gestures that showed he was paying close attention to her life and preferences. 1 month after their meeting at his penthouse, Zara was studying late at a coffee shop near her apartment, taking advantage of their good Wi-Fi and comfortable seating to review for her certification exam. She'd chosen this place because it was public and safe, and she could concentrate. She didn't notice the man who sat down at the table next to her until he spoke. Zara Thompson? He said in heavily accented English. Russian accent, she thought. She looked up warily. This wasn't one of Minho's guards. This was someone else, someone who made her skin crawl instinctively. Who's asking? She said carefully, her hand moving toward her phone in her pocket where Minho's number was on speed dial now. She'd programmed it there after the mugging incident, even though she'd sworn she'd never call him. Someone who knows you are very special to Kang Minho, the man said with an unpleasant smile. Someone who would like to ask you some questions about him and his business operations. Just friendly conversation between new acquaintances. Zara's blood ran cold. This was exactly what Minho had warned her about. This was his rivals making contact, testing his protection, looking for weakness. I don't know anything about him, she said, standing up and gathering her books. I'm just a nurse who treated him once in an emergency room, that's all. Please sit down, Miss Thompson, the man said pleasantly. But there was a clear threat underneath the polite words. We just want to talk, ask a few questions. Nothing to be afraid of. I'm leaving. Zara moved toward the door. The man stood and reached for her arm, his grip tightening. And suddenly he was on the floor screaming, his arm bent at an unnatural angle. Jae-sung stood over him with one hand still gripping the Russian's twisted wrist, a gun in his other hand pointed casually at the man's head. Miss Thompson, we need to leave immediately, Jae-sung said calmly, as if he hadn't just broken someone's arm in a public coffee shop. More of them may be nearby. 3 more of Minho's guards appeared from various points around the coffee shop. They'd been there the whole time, she realized, watching from different positions. They formed a protective circle around her and hustled her out the door and into a waiting black SUV before she could fully process what was happening. They didn't take her home. They took her directly to Minho's penthouse. He was pacing near the windows when they arrived, his face dark with barely controlled fury. When he saw her, he crossed the space immediately and gripped her shoulders, checking her frantically for any signs of injury. "Are you hurt?" he demanded, his hands running over her arms, her face looking for any damage. "Did he touch you? Did he hurt you at all?" "No, I'm fine. Your guards got there before he could do anything." "But how did that man find me? How did he get that close? I thought you said I was protected." "He should never have gotten within 20 feet of you," Minho said, his voice tight with rage. "My security was compromised somehow. Someone on my team either made a mistake or was paid off by my rivals. It is being handled right now, very harshly. But this incident proves my point about the danger you are in. Real danger, not theoretical danger. And I need you somewhere I can protect you properly with absolutely no gaps in security." "What does that mean?" "I want you to move in here, with me, where I can personally ensure you are safe at all times with my most trusted guards providing security." "Absolutely not. I'm not moving in with you." "Zara, no. I'm not moving in with a man I barely know just because you've decided I'm important to you. That's insane." "Then you will force me to take more extreme measures to protect you," Minho said, his voice hard. "I will assign an entire security team to live in your apartment building. Guards on every floor, watching every entrance, monitoring every single person who comes near you. Your neighbors will notice. Your landlord will complain. You will have zero privacy in your own home. Is that what you want?" "What I want is my life back. That is not an option anymore." Minho's control finally cracked completely. "Do you not understand yet? My rivals have decided you are my weakness, my vulnerability, the way to hurt me emotionally and strategically. They will not stop trying to get to you. The only way you stay alive is if you are somewhere I can protect you completely, with no gaps, no mistakes, no compromises. This is your fault," Zara shouted back, all her accumulated frustration and fear finally breaking free. "You decided I mattered to you, and now I'm in danger because of your obsession. You destroyed my normal life." "I know," Minho roared, his voice echoing through the penthouse. "I know it is completely my fault. I know I have ruined your peaceful life. I know you hate me for it. But that does not change the reality of the situation. You are in mortal danger, and I am the only person who can keep you alive. That is just the truth, regardless of whose fault it is." They stood there, both breathing hard, staring at each other across the penthouse. "I saved your life," Zara said quietly, feeling tears of frustration and exhaustion pricking her eyes. "And you destroyed mine in return." The pain that flashed across Minho's face was raw and genuine. "I know," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "And I would take it back if I could. I would let myself die on that emergency room table if it meant you could go back to your safe, normal life. But I cannot change the past. I can only protect your future. Please, Zara. Please let me keep you safe." Zara sank onto the couch, overwhelmed by everything. She was so tired. Tired of being scared. Tired of looking over her shoulder. Tired of fighting against something that was clearly inevitable. Tired of pretending she didn't sometimes think about Minho's intense dark eyes and his brutal honesty and the way he looked at her like she was precious. "How long?" she asked quietly, surrendering to reality. "How long do I have to stay here?" until the threat is eliminated permanently, until I have neutralized my rival's interest in you. Weeks, possibly months. And then you can decide if you want to go back to your old life. And I will let you go if that is what you truly want, even though it will destroy me. But until then, please, let me keep you safe here. Zara looked at him, really looked at him for the first time without anger clouding her vision, saw the genuine fear beneath his controlled exterior, the real concern in his eyes, the guilt he carried for putting her in danger, the desperate need to protect her. Fine, she said finally. I'll stay here, temporarily, until it's safe. But this doesn't mean I forgive you for what you've done to my life. This doesn't mean I'm okay with any of this. I understand completely. I will have your belongings brought here tomorrow. You will have complete privacy, an entire wing of the penthouse for yourself. I will not pressure you for anything more than allowing me to ensure your safety. Over the following weeks, living with Minho became a strange new reality. True to his word, he gave her complete privacy. She had her own bedroom, bathroom, sitting area, everything she needed. But they inevitably saw each other, shared meals sometimes when their schedules aligned, talked while she studied and he worked on his laptop. And the more Zara learned about him, the more complicated her feelings became. He was brutal and ruthless in his business. She overheard enough phone calls to understand that clearly. But he was also surprisingly thoughtful and considerate with her. He stocked her favorite foods without being asked, made sure she had quiet space to study for her certification exam, never pushed her for more than she was willing to give. "Why are you being so patient?" she asked him one night over dinner that his chef had prepared. "You have the power to force anything you want, but you're not. I have never wanted anything from you that you do not give freely and willingly," Minho said seriously, his dark eyes meeting hers. "My obsession with you is my problem, not yours to solve or satisfy. I will not punish you for my feelings or use my power to coerce you. That would destroy the very thing I value about you." 3 months into living together, everything shifted in a way Zara hadn't expected. She came home from a shift at the hospital to find Minho sitting in the living room, staring at nothing. There was blood on his white shirt. His hands were shaking slightly. "What happened?" she asked, her nursing instincts overriding everything else. "Are you hurt?" "Business meeting. It went badly. It is handled now." "You're hurt. I can see blood." She approached him carefully. "Let me look. It is nothing serious. Let me see." When he didn't protest, she carefully rolled up his sleeve to reveal a deep knife wound on his upper arm that was still bleeding. "This needs stitches. More than stitches. This needs proper medical care. I will have my personal doctor come. I'm a nurse. I can handle this. Just stay here." She went to get her medical bag. Minho had provided her with a fully stocked one, she discovered, just in case. She cleaned and stitched the wound in focused silence, her hands steady and professional. Minho watched her face the entire time, his expression unreadable. "You do not have to care for me," he said quietly. "Not after everything I have done to your life. I'm a nurse. Taking care of people is what I do." But that wasn't entirely true, she realized. She did care about him. Somewhere along the way, despite everything, she'd started to actually care about this dangerous, obsessed, impossible man who had turned her life upside down to keep her safe. "Thank you," Minho said when she finished. His hand caught hers, holding gently. "For this. For staying. For tolerating my presence in your life. For not completely hating me, even though you have every right to. You make it sound like torture. Is it not?" Zara looked at their joined hands. It was, at first, But it's getting easier. I'm adapting, understanding more. Hope flashed in Minho's dark eyes, the first genuine hope she'd seen in them. Easier? Don't get too excited. I'm still angry at you for putting me in this situation. But I'm starting to understand why you did what you did. That doesn't mean I agree with your methods. That is more than I hoped for when this started. That night marked a turning point in their relationship. Zara stopped fighting against the situation and started accepting it. Started accepting him. They had dinner together more, often. Talked about their days. She told him about difficult patients and medical cases. He told her about his business, the legal parts, though she knew the illegal parts existed in the background. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked one night, emboldened by wine and curiosity. "This life, the crime and violence." "Every single day," Minho admitted with brutal honesty. "But I was born into this world. My father was the head of our organization before me. His father before him. I never had a real choice about what I would become. You follow the path laid before you, or you die. Everyone has choices. Not in my world. In my world, you are loyal to family and organization, or you are eliminated as a threat. There is no middle ground, no retirement plan, no walking away." That sounds incredibly lonely. It was, until you. 4 months into living together, Zara realized with startling clarity that she was falling for him. It was insane, inappropriate. Probably Stockholm syndrome or some psychological adaptation to her situation. But it was undeniably real. The way he looked at her like she was the center of his universe. The way he listened when she talked about her work and her dreams. The way he remembered tiny details about her preferences. The way he protected her without smothering her independence. The way he was honest with her about his world, never hiding the darkness, but never forcing her to participate in it. "I think I understand your obsession now," she told him one night as they sat together on the couch, a careful distance between them that felt increasingly unnecessary. "What do you mean?" Minho asked carefully, like he was afraid to hope for what she might say. "I can't stop thinking about you either. About how this started as fear and hatred, but somewhere along the way became something completely different. Something I don't have a name for yet, but can feel growing stronger every day." Minho went very still, hardly breathing. "Zara, if you are saying what I think you are saying, I'm saying I want to try, whatever this thing is between us. I want to see where it goes. I want to understand it fully. You are certain? I will not hold you to this if you change your mind. You can walk away at any time." "I'm certain." Minho crossed the distance between them and cupped her face gently with both hands, his touch reverent. "I have wanted this, dreamed of this, since the moment I opened my eyes in that emergency room and saw you fighting to save my life. I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret giving me this chance. I will protect you, cherish you, worship you. I will burn down my entire empire before letting anyone hurt you." He kissed her then, soft and careful and reverent, like she was infinitely precious and he was terrified of breaking the moment. The next year transformed everything. The territorial conflicts with Minho's rivals resolved through a combination of negotiations and strategic violence. The threats diminished and eventually disappeared. The immediate danger that had forced Zara into his protection evaporated. "You can go back to your apartment now," Minho told her 6 months after she'd moved in. "You are safe. The threats have been eliminated. I will still have guards watching you, but from a much greater distance. You can have your old life back if that is what you want." "What if I don't want to go back?" Zara asked, surprising herself with how much she meant it. "What if I want to stay here, with you?" What are you saying? I'm saying I want to stay. Here, in this life. With you. If that's what you want too. If that is what I want. Minho pulled her into his arms tightly. Zara, I have wanted nothing else since the day you saved my life. I love you. Completely. Obsessively. Forever. I love you too. Even though you're a dangerous criminal who stalked me and paid off my student loans without asking. I will make it up to you for the rest of our lives. 2 years later, they were married in a private ceremony attended by a mix of Minho's organization members and Zara's family and friends who'd been carefully vetted for security. 3 years after that, they had their first child, a daughter who had her mother's compassion and her father's intensity. Minho gradually transitioned his organization toward more legitimate business operations, though he never fully left his criminal world. But he kept his promise to protect Zara and their growing family above everything else. Do you regret it? Minho asked her one night as they watched their daughter sleep. That night in the emergency room, saving my life? I regret that it put me in danger, Zara admitted honestly. I regret how you handled it afterward, taking over my life the way you did. But I don't regret where we ended up. I don't regret falling in love with you. I don't regret this life we built together. Even though it started with obsession, maybe obsession was exactly what we needed, to break through all the barriers and force us to see what could be. I would die for you, Minho said seriously. I know. You've proven that every day for 5 years. But I'd rather you live for me, for us, for our family. Then I will live for you, for us, forever. And he did.